Yesterday, the United States Supreme Court made a quiet but powerful decision that could have far-reaching effects. While there was no dramatic announcement or lengthy opinion, the impact of what happened is already being felt across the country. The court declined to hear a case brought by KimDavis, a name you might remember from headlines a few years ago. Davis, a former county clerk from Kentucky, became a national figure when she refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, citing her religious beliefs. Her case directly challenged the landmark 2015 Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, known as obergefell v.hodges. Davis argued that her religious convictions should exempt her from following the law, sparking a heated debate about the limits of religious freedom in public office. By refusing to take up her appeal, the Supreme Court let that historic decision stand, sending a clear message that the law of the land remains unchanged. The justices did not comment, but their silence spoke volumes. For many Americans, this is a moment of relief, a sign that marriage equality remains protected, and that the rights of same-sex couples are not up for debate. Celebrations erupted in some communities, as people felt reassured that their marriages and families are still recognized under the law. For others, however, the decision raises difficult questions about the balance between personal faith and public duty. Some worry that religious freedoms are being overlooked, while others argue that equality under the law must come first. The debate is far from over. Today we'll break down what happened, who KimDavis is, and why this case continues to matter. We'll look at the legal arguments, the public reaction, and what this means for future cases involving religious liberty and civil rights. Let's rewind to 2015, when the Supreme Court declared that same-sex couples have the right to marry in all 50 states. That decision was a turning point in American history, granting new rights and recognition to millions of people. That ruling changed lives overnight, but it also sparked new debates and legal challenges. Some celebrated, while others organized protests and sought ways to push back against the decision, leading to a wave of lawsuits and political battles. KimDavis's story began in a small Kentucky county, where her personal beliefs collided with her official responsibilities as a government employee. Her refusal to issue marriage licenses made her a symbol for some and a controversial figure for others. We'll explore her journey, the legal battles she faced, and what the Supreme Court's recent decision means for the future of both religious freedom and marriage equality in America. This is about more than one case. It's about how we balance freedom, equality, and the law in a changing society. Let's dive in and see what's at stake for all of us. KimDavis was the elected county clerk for Rowan County, Kentucky in 2015. She was responsible for overseeing a range of official duties in this small, rural community, nestled in the heart of Appalachia. The county clerk's office is a cornerstone of local government, handling everything from property records to vital documents. As county clerk, she issued official documents, including marriage licenses. Every day, couples from all walks of life would come to her office to make their unions official, trusting her to carry out the law with fairness and accuracy. Davis is an apostolic Christian, and her faith teaches her that marriage is only between a man and a woman. Her religious beliefs are deeply held, shaping not just her personal life, but also her sense of duty and morality. For years, her job and beliefs didn't conflict. Kentucky law matched her views. The state's constitution at the time defined marriage in the same way her church did, so she never had to choose between her faith and her work. That changed on June 26, 2015, when the Supreme Court's Obergefell v.Hodges decision legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The landmark ruling was celebrated by many as a victory for civil rights, but it also meant that local officials across the country had to adapt to a new legal reality. Suddenly, Davis was required by federal law to issue marriage licenses to all eligible couples regardless of gender. This was a dramatic shift, not just for her, but for county clerks everywhere who now had to reconcile their personal beliefs with the law of the land. This put her in direct conflict with her religious convictions. She faced a dilemma that went beyond paperwork. It was about her conscience, her faith, and her role as a public servant. As an elected official, she had sworn to uphold the law. That oath was a solemn promise, made in front of her community, to serve everyone equally and to follow the rules set by the courts and the Constitution. But now, the law required her to do something she believed was wrong. The tension between her personal beliefs and her public responsibilities became impossible to ignore. Davis faced a personal and professional crisis. She was caught between her faith, her job, and the expectations of her community, unsure of how to move forward. Her refusal to issue licenses would soon draw national attention. What began as a local dispute quickly became a headline story, with reporters and cameras descending on Rowan County. The story of KimDavis became a flashpoint in the debate over religious freedom and equal rights. People across the country took sides, seeing her either as a defender of faith or as an obstacle to equality. What happened next would put her and her small Kentucky office at the center of a national controversy. The eyes of the nation were suddenly on Rowan County, and the decisions made here would echo far beyond its borders. Let's see how her decision played out. The events that followed would test the limits of law, faith, and the responsibilities of public office. The stage was set for a legal showdown that would shape the national conversation about religious liberty and civil rights for years to come. After the Supreme Court's ruling, KimDavis stopped issuing marriage licenses to everyone, same-sex and opposite-sex couples alike. She argued that putting her name on the licenses would violate her faith. Couples in Rowan County, including David Ermold and David Moore, were turned away, and their story went viral. Davis claimed the First Amendment protected her right to refuse, while her critics argued she was discriminating as a public official. Some suggested compromises, like removing her name from the licenses, but as the elected clerk, the responsibility was hers. The debate quickly became national news. Supporters saw her as a hero of faith. Opponents saw her as denying equal rights. The conflict highlighted a core question: can personal beliefs exempt a government official from their duties? The answer would soon be tested in court. The legal battle was just beginning. KimDavis's refusal drew national media and protesters to Rowan County. The courthouse became a battleground for both sides, supporters of marriage equality and defenders of religious liberty. LGBTQ+ advocates called her actions discriminatory, while religious groups praised her stand. Politicians and activists weighed in, turning a local dispute into a national symbol. Couples denied licenses shared their frustration. Davis spoke about her faith and conscience. The story captured the nation's attention, illustrating the tension between religious freedom and equal protection. The stage was set for a dramatic legal confrontation. After being denied marriage licenses, several couples took a bold step. They sued KimDavis in federal court, arguing that her refusal violated their constitutional rights to equal protection and due process. The courthouse quickly became the center of a legal and cultural storm, drawing national attention and crowds of supporters and opponents alike. Presiding over the case, Judge David Bunning ruled that Davis, as an elected official, could not let her personal beliefs override her sworn duty to uphold the law. He ordered her to issue the marriage licenses, emphasizing that public officials must serve all citizens equally, regardless of their own convictions. Despite the court order, Davis stood firm in her refusal, citing her religious beliefs. Her continued defiance led Judge Bunning to hold her in contempt of court, a rare and serious charge for a public official. Davis was taken into custody and spent 5 days in jail. During her absence, her deputies, under court order, began issuing marriage licenses to the waiting couples, ensuring that the law was finally enforced in Rowan County. To clarify the situation, the marriage license forms were altered to indicate they were issued by court order, not under Davis's authority. This compromise allowed couples to marry while Davis remained in jail. Upon her release, Davis was sternly warned by the judge not to interfere with her deputy's work. The message was clear: her personal beliefs could not obstruct the rights of others or the rule of law. The legal battle didn't end there. The couples who had sued Davis sought to recover their legal fees, arguing that her actions had forced them into a costly and unnecessary court fight. The court ultimately ordered Davis to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, a financial penalty that underscored the seriousness of her defiance and the cost of violating constitutional rights. The case quickly became a national flashpoint, sparking heated debates about the limits of religious accommodation in public office and the responsibilities of government officials to uphold the law. Davis's defiance made her a lightning rod for both sides, celebrated by some as a champion of religious liberty, and criticized by others as an obstacle to civil rights and equality. Even after the initial rulings, the legal fight was far from over. Davis and her legal team filed appeals, determined to take the battle to higher courts and continue their fight for what they saw as religious freedom. The next step was clear. The case was headed toward the highest court in the land, where the stakes would be even greater, and the outcome could set a national precedent. As the nation watched, the legal and cultural stakes were about to reach their peak, with the Supreme Court poised to weigh in on one of the most contentious issues of the era. KimDavis and her legal team appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. They challenged the order to pay legal fees and, more ambitiously, asked the court to overturn the obergefell decision itself. Davis's lawyers argued that the ruling forced religious officials to violate their beliefs. They wanted the Supreme Court to revisit and reverse marriage equality. Legal experts called this a long shot, but the petition raised the stakes. For LGBTQ+ advocates, the possibility of the court reopening the issue was alarming. For Davis's supporters, it was a last hope to change the law. The nation waited for the Supreme Court's response. Would the justices take the case, or let the lower court rulings stand? On November 10, 2025, the Supreme Court quietly declined to hear KimDavis's case. No explanation, no fanfare, just a simple denial on their list of orders. This meant the lower court rulings stood. Davis owed the legal fees, and obergefell remained the law. The court's refusal signaled no appetite to revisit marriage equality. Legal experts saw this as confirmation that same-sex marriage is settled law. Millions have built their lives around this right. Overturning it would cause chaos. The denial sent a clear message. The legal debate is over. While social and political arguments may continue, the law is secure. For the couples denied in Rowan County, it was the end of a long fight. The Supreme Court's silence spoke volumes. The promise of equality had prevailed. The chapter closed, but the conversation about rights and freedoms continues. The nation moved forward. The Supreme Court's decision is a major milestone for equal rights. It reaffirms that marriage equality is a fundamental, protected right. The case was about more than licenses. It was about equality under the law. Courts consistently ruled that public officials must serve everyone equally. The government cannot discriminate regardless of personal beliefs. The debate over religious freedom isn't over, but the law is clear. This outcome is a victory for the rule of law and for those who stood up for their rights. The journey from a small Kentucky office to the Supreme Court proved that no official is above the law. For the couples involved, it's a powerful validation. Their fight helped secure equality for future generations. The Supreme Court's decision closes the book on major legal challenges to marriage equality. Same-sex couples can now feel secure that their marriages are recognized nationwide. Marriage equality is a settled part of American law and life. The story reminds us that the fight for true equality continues in other areas. Tensions between religious liberty and civil rights will persist, but the law is clear on marriage. The KimDavis saga is a lesson in democracy and the resilience of our legal system. Change is hard, but progress endures. The future of marriage equality in America is secure.